Welcome, Brenda. Welcome, Sarah. I'm really happy to have you on the Sacred Roots podcast today, where we're going to talk about your Oracle deck.
Thanks for having us. We're excited to be
thanks.
here.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Thank you.
So, little backstory for our listeners. Brenda and I, we both live in Squamish. And 2 weeks before I had my baby, we started hearing a baby screaming on the other side of our street. We were like, wait a second. Whose baby is that? I'm still pregnant, so it's not mine. But my brain was already responding to the cries as if it was mine. And then eventually we met and we realized our babies were exactly 2 weeks apart, which is really cool. And then one day I was coming to say hi to you, Brenda, and I see someone on your back deck, which was Sarah. And Sarah is telling me that you girls are doing an Oracle deck. And so I thought, oh my God, that is so cool that you girls are doing an Oracle deck, because so many people always say, oh, that's a really fun idea. Maybe I could do that. But not many people actually do it. So tell us a little bit about you girls, how you met and how you came to that idea, and tell us the whole story of that Oracle deck.
B, you want to do this?
Yeah. You just jump in. So the whole story, I mean, to preface, we did it, but Ellie, it took us 4 years from idea to actually printing. And then another, Sarah, a year and a half, 2 years to get to our second edition.
Yeah, it was definitely a labor of love. I'd say that. And I don't think we even realized that we'd even get to a second edition, which has been really exciting that we've got this far, basically. And
so how did you two meet? Let's start at the beginning.
So we met when we were both designing for the studio pod at Lululemon about, oh my gosh, would have that been 8 years ago now?
Yeah, it would have been 8 years. Yeah,
8 years. So at the time we were doing, Sarah, you were on studio with us, right? Sarah had just moved here from the UK, and I had been at Lululemon a few years prior to that as well. And then we met designing on the studio pod, which was more focused for yoga bar, the softer, less impact sports side of Lululemon. And then we both kind of discovered we had interests in what our hobbies were outside of work. And one of Sarah's biggest passions is drawing and art. And she actually ended up leaving Lululemon to pursue her own personal artistic.
And you're very talented, Sarah. The drawings
endeavors.
Are mind-blowing, so beautiful.
Yeah, and I've been drawing for, and I think so. I'm from the UK originally, but when I moved over here, I think I just became a little bit obsessed that you could have a bear in your garden here, or a raccoon, or things like that. So I just started drawing them, and I think I'd probably drawn maybe about 15 different animals at the time. And then B approached me, she's like, we should do an Oracle deck. And I'm like, sure, but I'd never, I think I'd dabbled a little bit in Oracle cards, but nothing to the extent of this. But yeah, Brenda said we should do this, and I was like, sure, let's do it. And that's kind of where it began. But so it was bearing in mind, Brenda. Yeah, it was definitely, it was B's idea, but bearing in mind it's some of the illustrations that I draw, take maybe up to 16 hours to draw. And then bearing in mind that the first deck was 52 animals, which I think is partly why it took us 4 years to 4 years to actually get the first edition.
Yeah, I'm trying to count as well. I'm like, wait, that's almost 1,000 hours of drawing.
Yeah, and then obviously the words would probably take just as long to kind of write a little piece on each. And
writing was a whole new adventure to me. I was just getting into the practice of shamanism when I kind of started seeing Sarah bloom as an artist, and I was so inspired by her drawings, and we both bond for the love of nature and reconnecting with that part of our wild self, as well as just learning to respect the land more and live with it versus on it. so it was also like kind of a crazy idea, but I was like, oh, we should do this. Like, your art is so beautiful. It would just speak to so many people in this format. And then writing the cards, like, totally, you know, I had never done this before. I never even thought I was a good writer. My older sister is actually a published writer. So I reached out to her for editing help, and then we went, like, I had no idea. So once we even had the drafts written, and Sarah was awesome. She really contributed, like, the habitat and the more economical facts and like habitual traits of animals, because she's had opportunity to go and observe a lot in the field, which is really amazing. So that kind of combined with my intuitive responses, and then back and forth editing with my sister, like that took, like, I don't even remember, Sarah, like that took even like quite a long time after Sarah was done all of the art. So I was the last
Oh yeah, editing, like everything that's written, once you start editing, it can take a while. I know about that with my 2 books.
Yeah.
So you girls met, and then you were like, okay, we're friends now. It's super fun to work together, but we have these dreams, these things we want to do on the side. Let's do an oracle deck. What was your intention at first? So for the people that are listening, I was playing with the oracle deck this weekend, and it's, first of all, it's beautiful. Like my husband also told you, Brenda, when we saw you, it's so, like, I love the color, because that like dark green, emerald, and gold, well, they're my branding colors, so I really love them.
Good choices.
And like, it really brings you back to like the depth of nature. I think that's really what it's calling me to. It's like the wisdom and the depth of nature. And you have all these beautiful animals, the starfish, the turtle, the bears. So what was really your intention? Where did you start, and where did that idea of connecting with animals, wild animals, and connecting with their message, where did that come from?
Sarah, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, I think it was I think for me, again, coming from the UK, where the UK is it's so much more built up, whereas I felt coming to North America or Canada, and especially Vancouver, there's so much land that well, just the size of the forests, the oceans, the trees, it felt so magical, and it felt that this land needed to be protected. And the UK, like many years ago, had bears, and it just felt like I'd never experienced that. And I think coming to somewhere which has that landscape, and that's partly why I started my illustration career. I felt like I wanted to give back to a cause, and 5% of my sales goes to a charity called CPOS, which protects parks and wilderness. So I decided that I would, through my illustration and selling my illustrations and arts, I wanted to give back to the charity, or to a charity, and that's why I chose CPAWS. And then it just kind of spiraled, I think, just with all the different animals that there are. And then with Brenda's words, it just kind of made sense that that this was, yeah, I guess that, and I guess it wasn't, there wasn't a full intention. It just kind of bloomed, really, rather than we didn't expect to be where we are today. We didn't, like I said, I think I said already, we didn't expect to have a second edition. It just became like a really lovely project that B and I got to do together. We really enjoyed it. We didn't want to put too much pressure on ourselves with it. And then I'm just really proud of where we've got to today. And I'm also really proud of just the feedback that we're getting from the Oracle deck, from customers and stockists. Everyone really sees how much love that we've put into this deck. And it's not,
I can see that.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's grown through for us, I think, that way, really.
You really went with the flow, the feminine way, basically.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. And so, Brenda, I'd be curious to know what is your process to actually connect with the animals and the messages? Like you said, you had never done that before. Like the first time that you sat down, like what happened? Was it a little bit like the scare of the white page?
Oh, yeah, I had no idea. And I needed to, I did want to, like, I read a few, some books, and I wanted to like, kind of be like, okay, I know there's so many cultures, and especially acknowledging like where we live, like the Indigenous First Nations here is like such a huge part of the culture. And it's something like we're still learning, and I don't want to take that in appropriation of our own, because I am of settler descent. But the beautiful thing is living on the land and like being in the nature. It opened up to me exploring my roots of European Indigenous culture, and how when I started to dig, these animal guides was a really theme that I found that presented itself throughout different cultures in the world. And from our European lineage, like Celtic Druids. So it was really cool to me, kind of, it reawakened this part. And at the same time, I was studying mountain shamanism in Squamish before I moved here. So I was learning to journey with my teacher, Christine Selda, and Anita Weinman, two amazing teachers. Their link is in our book if anyone is interested, shamanicyoga.ca, I'm pretty sure. So journeying was kind of a new meditative technique that I used. So that was one way. Another way, both Sarah and I have been practicing yogis for many, many years. So sometimes I would just sit with her card in meditation, and I'd get words like, okay, this word, or I'd get a bodily sensation, oh, this feeling, and kind of like dig into that. And then I'd pull Sarah's like habitat and more sorry, my English is not good today.
Ecological.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. Ecological research, and kind of be like, oh, like these are the lines that connect the feelings that I was getting when I like focused on this one animal. And then a third way is more of a word that is newer to me. It's called channeling. Something I wasn't really aware of what it was before. But at some points I would be sitting at a blank screen, and it's like, okay, just like read. And I kind of called it automatic writing, but what I've learned a little bit more is like, this is potentially like a little bit of a channeling. It's still very new to me, but that was like another way that some of the cards came through and ended up creating themselves on the pages.
So actually this whole process helped you even discover new parts of yourself, and like maybe gifts that you didn't even know you had it, and really tap into them, through the channeling and the wisdom that you're just allowing to flow through you.
Yeah, I think I had to get out of my head in the end. And I think the channeling really was most apparent with the new 4 cards. So turkey vulture, herring, kingfisher, and bee. Because I was I think it was like 3 or 4 months postpartum at that point with my daughter Maya. And Sarah and I were Ellie and I went on a couple of walks. Like, oh my God, I can't even sit and meditate. Like, birth was a crazy adventure for me. And being silent the way I had before wasn't happening. So I just really had to let myself be an open channel and just like bamboo shoot it, be like, I am the bamboo Zen meditation. And I'd look at the page and I'm like, there's some good stuff in here.
Yeah.
So
it's always funny when you look back at what you wrote and you're like, oh, that was actually interesting. I didn't know I had that somewhere in me.
It's like, where did that come from? Like, I don't, are you looking at the page, and you might have experienced this writing your book too, Ellie, is like, where did this, like, I don't even remember writing that, but here it is.
It's so beautiful when we can really be that open channel and just allow life to flow through us really in everything that we do. And is that something that you're thinking of exploring more now that you have, opened that part of yourself?
Yeah, maybe. That could be fun.
You definitely should be, because I think for me it was like, I would get the notes from B when she'd written something, and I'd be like, oh my God, this is incredible. It was so nice just to receive, and then to have the illustration and then see like the words. It was like, oh my God, this is really good. It was, I loved it.
That's awesome.
Well, and I couldn't have done any of it without Sarah's drawings. Like, this is a very, like, we need each other in this relationship. And I don't think even it would have manifested without the partnership into physical, like, no way, so we really keep each other in check. and inspired too, which is super important.
Yeah.
And do you girls have like a favorite way of pulling an oracle deck? How do you actually use other decks or your own deck?
Oh, lots of ways. I've been a tarot reader. I love tarot and I love supplementing. So I think I first got into animal messengers through tarot, and then I'd kind of pull them because they give a softer, I think almost a more like applicable application sometimes of questions or queries. So I'd kind of use them in conjunction with another deck. And then with our deck, honestly, my favorite way, and especially now that I'm a mom and my attention span has severely decreased, is just the one card a day. It's amazing. I'm like, this is what I need. One card, we're done. Sometimes Maya will pick it and we're good to go.
Did you just pick the starfish?
Oh, I pulled it up because I know you said you had it.
Oh, okay.
So I
was like, that would be a crazy coincidence.
I know.
Because I picked the starfish this morning for our listeners, and I was just saying that to Brenda before we recorded. So you just like connect with an intention or ask a question, and then do you like just shuffle the game and then let a card come out, or do you also pick one that you feel called to, or it depends?
Both. It totally depends. Some ways the card that pops out is one of my favorite ways, because like I'll just always keep that there. And sometimes if I'm like, oh, I need 2 cards and this will explain itself, or I pull it up and I'm like, oh, I don't quite get it, and then I'll pull another one and be like, oh, okay, that's where you fit in.
So Sarah, you were saying that you weren't very familiar with oracle decks before. Did that change now?
Well, I'm not, tarot is still a little bit too advanced for me. I do have the Wild Unknown deck, and so I kind of play around with that one as well a little bit. But I'm sort of like the one card pull, or I like to go on, like I did a retreat not that long ago, and I took the deck with me, and it was really nice to like ask questions then and just have a little bit more time. Again, I've got like a 15-month-old, so just time is, but I like now to carve out time and pull, like do the Trinity spread and ask it questions, or just what comes up when I'm doing these retreats and things like that. So I think it's but I think it's really nice. And even we've had like some meeting, just when we have our meetings together, we'll do a pull just before, and it's kind of sets the intention of how and it's so accurate, and like it's just like, oh, like we had a meeting before and we pulled the jellyfish, and it was like, and we were just like going with the flow, and we were like, we need to build bones for this now. We've been going with the flow for the whole kind of 4 years, 5 years, however long we've been doing it. It's like, now we need to put a bit more structure and a bit of like more bones. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, this is exactly what we needed. So it's it's really it's really nice to just ask for some help, ask for some guides, I guess.
So like you were just sharing, you have a 15-month-old, and Brenda and I, we have a 10-month-old. So I think it's really funny how we're all new moms, I would say. Did this whole process of birthing an oracle deck and at the same time birthing a baby, what would be like the biggest lesson that you both took from these 2 simultaneous births?
That you can't force it.
That's a good one.
B and I both had difficult births. Like mine was a 3-day event.
Oh God.
So I think it was definitely you can't force it. And then also, my little boy, he's got a little bit of a temperature at the minute. I'm holding him right now, he's okay, but I think again it's also not knowing really what the future holds. How about you, B?
Yeah, I'd say both of those, and then also just not putting too many firm expectations on it, or a particular vision on it, because like Sarah said, both of our births were difficult, and I had this whole plan in my head which I was told never to do, and I did it, and totally the 180 happened, and it was all good, we're all fine, but like I think same with the deck. It's like, it happened, not really how we expected or how we originally had planned. But the fact that we're at a second edition is pretty wild, honestly. Yeah, super cool that we got here, and super cool that we all have kids now. And like, again, I sit some days and like, how did all this stuff happen? Like, look at the deck. When did you arrive? Look at my kid. How did you get here?
Yeah, and our babies are going to be almost 1 year old. I'm like,
I know. Like, how has it
wow.
been almost a year, right?
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, my baby is like 10 months today exactly. And I'm like, what just happened? 10 months? How's that possible? And I think it's beautiful that you're both underlining how both birth processes are really a lesson about surrendering in the end. And about really, really trusting that even though you want things a certain way, well, life has a better plan, or another plan at least. And maybe in the moment it doesn't feel like it's better, but maybe it's better than something else that could have happened and that did not happen. Or there's always lessons in our challenges as well. So tell us a little bit, like from the entrepreneurial side of things, what were some of the challenges that you encountered with the creation of this deck?
Sarah, I'm gonna let you field this one. Sarah's been honestly doing most of the legwork as far as production goes. So,
and I would say I've become an operations manager, and my career job is a clothing designer, and then I guess I've moved into art and illustration. But I've very much been. We wanted to keep all our production printing here in Canada, and we've always been really happy with what we ended up with, as in what we've printed, but there was a lot of back work in the process of, there were some things that we weren't happy with that we had to kind of work with the printer to get to where we were happy with it. And I think we have changed our second edition. We changed our printer, and we're super happy with them now. And again, they've been great. We've really worked together, and we want to continue working with them, hopefully for the third edition. And like I say, we really wanted to keep the printing here in Canada, and just keep it within the economy. I know a lot of decks are made in China, and also that comes with its own issues as well. But we wanted to use, one of the issues was for this deck, it's the book, the cards, and the outer cover of the box are 100% recycled. And we decided to print, and this is one of the reasons why it was late. We were meant to have the edition out before at Christmas time, but there was a problem. I think there was a lot of delays with the paper mills due to COVID. So we ended up having a huge delay to get the recycled paper. That was one of the issues. And then I think just a lot of back and forth. And again, I'm not a production person, and I'm also, they're Oracle cards, so I didn't want to force them again, to rush them. And I think at first we tried to rush them, and then it was like, these are Oracle cards, they're meant to be mindful. We don't want that to be. And I think it sort of, it would have come out in the Oracle cards in a way, if that makes sense. So definitely. And so I think that's probably our major issue.
Again, then, surrendering, trusting the process.
Exactly. And going with the flow. And
so I heard you talk about a third edition. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, I think we just always, with each edition, we can always make it a little bit better. There's always tweaking, and I don't think the third edition would be massively different. It would just be tweaked to, again, learning from things from the second edition. We'd be able to make it just that little bit better. And I think with every edition or reprint, I guess, and again, it would be just a tweak reprint rather than a full again, like what we've changed this time is the box, the recycled card, and we've added four messengers. Maybe
we improved the book binding too. The book binding really improved a lot.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love as well the texture of the cards and the book and the box. It's so soft. It really makes you want to caress all them.
Ooh,
yeah, so we're hearing Jackson in the back. Hey, Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson agrees.
Jackson approved.
Mothers and creatives and intuitives and entrepreneurs and podcast guests, we're everything at the same time. Shapeshifter.
And I think that's probably another, I don't even want to call it a challenge, but it's just been like, we went for some of the proof printing, and I didn't have childcare. Brenda ended up coming down from Squamish, and she would push Jackson around. It wasn't really a safe place for Jackson to particularly be, like in the print. It was down in just in East Van, so it wasn't really a safe place for him to be. I think he might have just started walking at that point, and so Brenda went for the walk with the two babies, and I would do the proofing. So there's and again, though, he's been in on other meetings, and like my printers have always been fine when it's just in the office and things like that. So he's clapping. He's like, yay.
He's proud of you. He's saying, congrats, mommy, you did it all.
And I think there was one day that Sarah came over and we're like, okay, we're gonna power down. We're gonna have like this session. It's like, okay, great. I had like food planned for the mamas, food planned for the babies. And then, we're like, okay, great. The babies can play and amuse themselves. No.
Yeah. They just wanted to like tap at the computer, and they were too interested in what we were doing.
Of course. They also wanted to write their own oracle deck.
Exactly. Yeah.
So is there a new oracle deck that's going to come? I think I remember you, Brenda, saying something about the ocean.
Okay, so this is huge. Sarah may have given away some of our secret tips to Ellie, but we were brainstorming together about the future, and just our new website, we just launched it this week, www.messengersfrom.com. And
I'm going to put all the links in the show notes.
Amazing. We went back and forth on the name because our deck is, of course, inspired by the Pacific Northwest. But then we were also thinking, I love plants, and like plants is one thing. You asked me about channeling. I did a bunch of study with plants the year before I had Maya, and they really talk to me in ways as well. And I was telling Sarah this crazy idea. I was like, hey, for our next crazy deck, in 4 years from now, could we do like messengers from the plant world or the forest, or, insert whatever here, kind of what's talking to us at the time, what Sarah's inspired to draw, So it's an idea. We shall see.
Yeah, and then I was like, we could do like messengers from the Serengeti, and have like the big cats and things like that. So, but again, it's Brenda is still full-time, going back to work soon. I'm still doing my illustration work. I have a few other little projects, but yeah, we'll see. It would be lovely if we could do that, but I think it took us 5 years to get this deck out. So there's nothing coming soon, but
maybe with the second babies.
Yeah, exactly. But we are thinking of, we are going to do some postcards soon, and possibly a journal.
Oh, that's nice.
And we've got a few other little ideas that, but nothing would be ready, I don't think, until probably September time. So yeah.
So we'll see if the second deck wants to be born or not in the future. Exactly. And so is there like an animal or a message that you girls really connect with in the deck? I'm sure you're going to say, oh, we love all of them and all the messages, but is there one in particular that you really connect with, or that you always pick randomly?
For me, like recently, I've been getting the squirrel so often. And I think there is that, it's like the preparedness, the agility, like saving I feel like something's happening that I don't know about, that it's trying to prepare me for. But I have been picking the squirrels like almost like it's really strange actually how often it's been like showing up for me.
Insisting.
Well, we've also been through 2 years of a pandemic, and you have a toddler now, Sarah. So preparing is key every day.
Yeah, that's true. And and I do feel like I almost need to get, I think it's telling me to almost to get fit, like the agility of it, because I feel like life's going to start speeding up soon again. So maybe that's why it's showing up so much for me.
Interesting.
I love that. I think for me, when I think of our deck, we've kind of chosen the spirit bear. And I love the message that we got through our research of spirit bear, because they inspire us to, like, our interpretation was inspiring for land stewardship and giving back, and this idea of reciprocity. So always giving back, like, even if you're out for a walk and, you pick up a rock or a flower, and just like, what do you have in your pocket that you can offer back to the earth? And this is also a practice that I've really learned and resonated with shamanism and animism as well.
I'm just like put myself on mute.
No, I love Jackson's little snarfs. So just this idea, and this is something that we are really inspired by, and that we really hope that our readers of the deck are inspired by too. Just getting outside and starting to look at plants and animals as, living objects, even trees and rocks. Just because I think the way we treat them then becomes a lot more kind and soft and generous too.
Yeah.
And I think as well with the deck, it's also trying to really inspire people to get outside a bit more and just I think you protect what you love, and if you realize that there is such beauty and with the animals and that are out there, I guess we're trying to rewild ourselves a little in the process as well.
Yeah, invite people to come back to nature, come back to ourselves, really, because we are nature, and remembering this beautiful environment we live in.
Exactly. And I think sometimes we think that we're like these special humans, where actually we probably should put ourselves in as a little human in the oracle deck. Maybe a little wild card.
Joker.
The Joker of the pack.
And about reciprocity, I saw that some of your profit is actually going to an organization. Can you tell us about that? Yeah, Jackson, so you're going to talk about it.
You want to talk about it? It's a charity called CPOS, and I've been donating to them for probably about 7 years now. And basically, it stands for Canada's parks and protecting Canada's parks and wilderness. And I saw I was looking for a charity to donate to, and I really I loved the grizzly bears and I loved all the different animals, but I didn't want to. I was trying to find I didn't really know who I wanted to support, and then I ended up watching a movie called The Last Stand, and it was about the caribou, and it was put on by CPOS, or somehow I saw it through CPOS, and then they were just saying how they protect the land, and obviously if you protect the land, it protects all of the animals rather than just one species. So it was amazing how I think as soon as I saw that, it was just like, okay, this is the charity, and they've been great at just championing the land, and so I'm glad that I've just kind of stuck with this, and that I think they're just an amazing charity, so you should check them out. Yeah. What do you think?
Awesome. Yeah, it's great. It's great that you are indeed not just helping people reconnect to nature and love the animals more so that they protect them more, but also use the money that we used to buy your oracle deck to actually give back to nature. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
And you also have a gift for listeners if they want to purchase your oracle deck, right?
Yeah, so we're doing a little 10% off for you guys. We've got the code is Love Sacred Roots, and Ellie, if you don't mind,
Put it in the show
that
notes as
Thank
well.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's very generous of you. A beautiful gift for all the listeners of this podcast.
You're welcome.
So for every person that is thinking of launching an oracle deck, and it's an idea that they've been having in the back of their head, what would be your advice?
Give yourself 5 years.
Set some timeline.
Yeah. I think do it. It's you definitely need some sort of deadlines. It's really helpful to have someone else to help you with those deadlines. And again, I think B said it already, this wouldn't have been a project that either of us could have done without each other. So it's really nice to have each other as accountability partners. So maybe get yourself an accountability partner for your deck.
And what would be your advice, Brenda?
Well, I think, you touched on it earlier, Ellie, was this surrendering. And it's funny, it's a chapter that I've just been reading in your book too. And all these little points of just like, I love control. Sarah knows this. I work a corporate job. Like there's so many things I love about the calendar, as much as I love to hate it, I guess I'll put it that way. But this project really took me out of my comfort zone. And the fact is, like, we miss so many deadlines, like quote unquote deadlines that we set for ourselves. But learning that it was okay and to relax more into this. And I think it's also actually influenced my design that way too. Is like, I don't, if I don't feel it so much one day, it's like, okay, it's going to be after work, after dinner. Like, I think letting the creativity come when you really feel inspired by it, which is a bit of a juxtaposition to setting deadlines and working with the flow, and you can combine the two. And I think you need both. And it's that, again, like that sacred union. Yeah. And it's never there. I mean, sometimes it's there and you're like, oh my God, I'm so good today. I'm flowing. And then other days you're just off and you kind of have to push and it feels icky, but you got to just kind of get through it even when you don't want to. So yeah, I think the surrender has been a huge lesson for me. And then that is something I hope to hold more in the coming years. And we'll see where this goes, this second edition, and what else is to come, if any. But
now you're also surrendering to seeing what kind of journey this oracle deck is going to have.
This is it.
Who it is going to reach, how it's going to impact, change their lives. And I'm sure that you're already receiving messages and like super funny synchronicities or stories that people are telling you about. Can you share?
Yeah, actually, I love that you brought this up. One thing, we did our first customer survey. Sarah launched that just before, was it Christmas time? I think just before Christmas. And we both had pre-Christmas, and I got so nervous because like Sarah said, we didn't really know what to expect. And like, for those of you wanting to create a deck, or if you're just inspired by a creative idea, like we definitely we thought of our why we wanted to do this together and what inspired us and like why we thought this is an important thing for us to do for our personal journey. And then maybe now we're seeing how we can bring in the collective and see, and the feedback we got it was really touching. I'm kind of tangenting off here, but like I was really nervous to read it, and then reading it, it really touched me deeply because people were talking about, Sarah's drawings and my messages and just how meaningful that they had found them in certain pockets of their life and day-to-day ritual. And I was like, okay, like this is our greater why now as we expand the deck. I feel like a little bit naked because it's my, soul work coming out. And I told Sarah, I'm like, oh, I'm like having to come out of the broom closet this year. So I've been pretty closeted for some long time. So, talking about it is new for me, but I think also hearing the feedback, it gives me confidence and courage that people can connect with our work as well.
Yeah, it's magical when you think about it, that now you're a little bit of hope, a little bit of guidance, a little bit of support for all those who are pulling your cards every morning. It's beautiful.
It's so cool to think that people are pulling our cards and like having, connection with that. It gives me good shivers.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I
yeah,
love
it was really powerful actually to get the feedback from people. I don't think we realized how much people loved the deck and how much they how much they used it, and it was really exciting to hear that feedback. And I think I think that would probably be another advice to give people if they were going to do the Oracle deck, is get the feedback from the customers, get the people that are actually using it. And I don't think we were kind of just like, oh, we're just doing this as our little love project, and then it was like, oh wow, okay, so yeah,
you're leaving a trace behind you. It's really making an impact in people's lives, for sure. Awesome. Oh, well, thank you so much, Brenda and Sarah, for sharing the behind the scenes of the birth of this Oracle deck. I can't wait to see my audience purchase it and play with it. And we're going to put all the details for people to get it, the code, your website, your Instagram accounts as well on the show notes of this episode. So thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Ellie. That's really nice. You want to say thank you, Jackson? No.
Oh, now he's shy. Bye, Jackson.
Now you're shy. You can say bye.